So we're pleased to welcome in here on the Patrick Netherton Show the head coach of the Sam Houston State Bearkats on their way to Baton Rouge for the regional down there. We welcome in Jay Sirianni. Coach, how are you?
Doing good, Patrick. How about you guys?
Man, we're doing fantastic. I'm not going to a regional fantastic or anything, but, we're doing all right. We're hanging in.
There you go.
Hey, it's all you can ask for. All right, so let's kind of, for those of us that are, LSU fans here in Louisiana, maybe unfamiliar with Sam Houston. Obviously, I've been down there a bunch to call games and been through there a lot. Know Sam Houston well as the voice of Northwestern State. Kind of give us an overview of, Sam Houston baseball, what this team looks like. What should people that are watching and maybe seeing you guys for the first time expect?
Well, I think first off, it's like our 12th or 13th regional we've been in. We played in the, I think it was 2013.
Yep, 13.
LSU regional I wasn't there at that time, but most recently played in the 2017 Super Regional. So, there's always high expectations at Sam to continue playing baseball late into May. And, I think we got a good club that loves to compete and a bunch of good guys that love each other and like to compete together. So we're excited to be on this trip, and we've got 3 good teams we're going to have to play.
Yeah, it's a heck of a group. Now, you kind of got this, the hard way. You had to go and win both games in the last day of the tournament, which is always the most difficult thing to do when you have to come in out of the losers bracket, elimination bracket, consolation bracket, whatever you want to call it. You guys had to do that. Tell me about getting those 2 games done, the close one first, and then turning around and having an absolute blowout in the second one.
Well, first of all, it was one of the crazier conference tournament brackets I've ever been a part of. We had to play 2 doubleheaders in 2 days, and fortunate enough to win both doubleheaders.
Mm-hmm.
It was 2 good days of baseball, 2 long days of baseball. But this group likes to play, so it's probably better than just only getting to play one.
Yeah,
it was a tough week.
Well, you come up with the 2 wins in a row. As you mentioned, you go double headers back-to-back to get the wins in advance. You have to take down Abilene Christian and then Grand Canyon. That gets you into that, all right, now you've got to beat Utah Valley twice, and you do that. Is there a way to prepare for, hey, we're going to have to play double headers back-to-back? Or how do you kind of go about prepping your team, not just physically, but also mentally for that kind of a grind?
Well, I think the first thing we talked about was just trying to win 1 inning at a time. It started with 1 at-bat or 1 pitch at a time. And, we knew we had an uphill climb. We knew that. But we started celebrating little things, just being able to get guys on base and getting ahead and those kind of things. And it kind of snowballed into a bunch of big innings for us. But I don't know if there's really a way to prepare for it or talk about it other than, that's what you start for in August. You got to be in shape, and you got to be ready and willing to compete for as long as possible. You guys,
kind of one of the truisms of conference tournaments and even regional play, not as much super regional because there's only typically 3 games, but, regional play and in the conference tournaments, the theory often goes, your starting pitching will kind of get you through the first game or 2. Most teams tend to have 2 good starters, and then it sort of falls off after that. And then it's, okay, can you go with the bats? I would imagine that made you feel pretty good because offensively your team is a bit of a nightmare for opponents.
Yeah, we've been offensive all year. Really, we've been offensive for 2 years. And so once you can weather some of the front-end guys with pitching staffs, then you got to like your chances. But, you never know with it. A conference tournament is something that you just, you have to score. You can get through a regular season if you pitch, but in a tournament you got to score, that's for sure.
I look at your offense, and oftentimes in college baseball, teams tend to have 1 or 2 identities. They're either the old Earl Weaver, sit back and wait for the 3-run homer, or they are create. I think about Southeastern, back in the day when they were always 150 stolen bases, bunt and run, hit and run, all that stuff. And I look at your stats, Coach, and obviously not really having seen you play, I'm impressed with how you're able to kind of do things in a bunch of different ways. You got a ton of home runs, a ton of doubles. You've also got a lot of stolen bases. Tell me about it. Is there a specific identity for this team, or is it kind of we can do whatever it takes to get the job done?
Well, Coach Swed does a really amazing job. Him and Coach Smith both do a good job of not just training the swing or the approach to get hits, but they really work hard at having an offense that, I guess we call it, an offense that'll travel. So whatever conditions we need to play in, that we have the ability to score runs multiple ways. But it comes down to the way those guys work and interact with our hitters day in and day out. I mean, they're constantly challenging them to get better in something that they're not comfortable with. So we try to challenge our team and our players to be able to, have an offense that travels. And, obviously if you're facing good pitching, you got to get them off their mark somehow. And whether that's the wind's blowing out or wind's blowing in or whatever. So it's a challenge, that's for sure. But these two assistants do a really good job of running our offense.
Well, I'll be honest with you, Coach. I mean, I've called college baseball for 2 decades now. I can't recall the last time I saw a team where 8 guys have over 44 RBIs, and of those, almost all of them have double-digit steals. That's a unicorn when I look at offense. So I've got to tell you, I'm impressed by the versatility that you guys are bringing to Baton Rouge. Let's highlight a couple of folks for people that are tuning in. Hey, I'm watching this Oregon State Sam Houston game, potentially Sam Houston LSU. If you guys get past Oregon State and LSU advances, kind of highlight some of the guys. Obviously, I can look at the stats and see Tyler Davis is hitting .432, and Joe Redfield's got 13 homers, and Walker Janik's got 65 runs batted in. But kind of give me some of the guys that you want to highlight that you think people should be looking out for.
Well, obviously those 3 guys are big pieces to our lineup, but, I think you got Justin Wischkowski, who has played almost every position for us on the infield, and he's even played center field for us. He usually hits in the 2-hole, and he's hit a few jacks, he's hit a bunch of doubles, he's stolen bases, but I think he's kind of one of those table setters to get on base in front of TD and Walkie, and then the back end or the bottom part of our lineup in Miles Jefferson and Easton Lloyd, those 2 guys are just they're thorns in your side. They're going to constantly have competitive at bats and figure out ways to get on base and create pressure. And then you got Clayton Chadwick, who's also had a really good year. He's hitting for more power than he has in the past, but he's kind of that utility knife. He can hit and run with him and drive in guys. So, and then you got the freshman and Jake Tatum that I think he's going to be a really good hitter as his career continues on.
I really enjoy you saying, the guys at the bottom of our lineup, the table setters, who between the 2 of them have 99 RBIs on the season. That's magnificent. I mean, your offense is spectacular. All right, Lynn, let's talk about the pitching staff. Talking to Jay Sirianni, head coach of the Sam Houston Bearkats, on their way to Baton Rouge for the regional. We'll be taking on 2-seed Oregon State in Game 1. Tell me a little bit about the pitching staff. I see you've got a couple of relievers that are really shut-down guys. And, the starters, kind of like everyone, it seems like, almost all starters seem to have an ERA, in that 4 to 5 range because of the zone and the ball being a little jumpier this year. Tell me about that staff and some of the guys that we're going to see.
Well, I think it started with our group in August. We had a pretty new pitching staff, and, we just kind of took on the mantra of being pitch makers and being able to mix pitches in the strike zone and give our hitters a chance to score, and we've done a good job, and it's kind of led by Colton Atkinson. He's an innings eater. He makes pitches. It's 3-pitch mix and pretty much any count. And then you got the seasoned veteran in Stephen Beard, who's pitched in every role in his career. But, we'll start him most of the time, just depending on matchups and stuff like that. But, I think our whole goal is to get to about the 5th or 6th with a lead and hand it over to the bullpen. Chandler Davis had a really good year. Braden Davis has gotten a bunch of saves for us. And so, you know, I think it's kind of an all hands on deck and win the game that's in front of you. We don't get too caught up in what's tomorrow. We're just trying to win the one in front of us.
Well, the one in front of you is Oregon State coming in as the 2 seed. Funny enough, the last time Northwestern State made the tournament was 2018, and in 2018, the NCAA shipped Northwestern State and LSU to Corvallis to take on Oregon State. So nice to see Oregon State, you know, the return game back to Baton Rouge 5 years later. That was the team that ultimately ended up winning the national championship. So you've obviously gotten to scout Oregon State. Tell us about the Beavers.
Well, they're going to be highly competitive. They're very well coached. They've played in a really good league and in a tough non-conference schedule. So we're not going to give them anything they haven't seen, and kind of vice versa. It's just going to come down to two really good teams and see who can get the big hit when it matters and make the big play. But you know, we feel very fortunate to be coming to Baton Rouge and playing two of the most historic teams in college baseball here as of late. And so, you know, we're just trying to win one thing at a time. But Oregon State's going to be good. They're going to be highly competitive and well coached.
I have to take you back to the final game of the WAC tournament because you have to beat Utah Valley twice to win the thing, which is always an uphill climb. At this point, you know, who knows who's starting? You're throwing all kind of different guys. There's, you know, it's just kind of who can go back. Maybe a guy goes back out there, whatever. And you take an 18-0 lead after 4 innings, which I was a little surprised to learn y'all didn't have a run rule going on, but B, what is well, yeah. So tell me, like, what's the mentality when you're sitting there in the bottom of the 4th and you're up 18-0? Are you more nervous about that than you would be if it was 2-1 in the 4th?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was an extremely offensive week. A lot of big innings throughout the whole tournament. And, you know, it just takes a couple of mistakes, and next thing you know, you're right back in the game. And when you're thin on pitching on Game 6 of the conference tournament, you're not comfortable until it's over. So, yeah, we were fortunate enough to get off to a good start, and that's always kind of been our MO. If we get off to a good start, we're going to be okay. But it's definitely uncomfortable. You never feel good in those types of games.
And one of my favorite things occurred in that game, and that is you won by 20 runs, and a guy got a save. I love the guy gets a 3-inning save, but Coach, a 21-1 game, and you only had to use 2 pitchers. That's pretty wild for the final game of a tournament like that.
Well, it's weird because it kind of happens where the team that's down gets really aggressive early in the count, early in their at bats, and Colton went out. He had a really bad start on Thursday against them. I mean, he got knocked out of the game in the first or the second. And so we were able to go back to him. And I think that was a big piece of it. But when teams are down like that, they're either going to take a bunch of pitches or they get really aggressive, and they did. And so we were able to use Colt within a realistic pitch count longer than probably any of us expected. But yeah, and then Jack Driscoll came in and did a really good job. He hadn't pitched for us much. He's a surgery guy and all that. So really proud of the way he came in and finished it off for us.
Finally, let's talk about the mentality of your team. Obviously, coming in, red hot, having won, as you mentioned, back-to-back doubleheaders on Friday and Saturday. You scored 17, 22, 12, and 21, so the bats have to feel good. Is there anything to the atmosphere of LSU? Like, you played at A&M. You've been on the road to some places. Baylor has a pretty good atmosphere. Texas, obviously, is very good. Are you at all concerned that potentially you meet LSU, who you faced before on a neutral site? Is there any concern that you face LSU at their place and that atmosphere being in any way intimidating?
Well, I don't know if intimidating is really going to be the word. I think it'll be more about just getting used to it. One of the best places we played this year was at Tech, and they're at Texas Tech, and It's not 15,000 like at the box, but they're pretty good. And they'll get after you, and so our guys have handled this stuff better than most. Some teams don't like it, but we know we're in front. We got a challenge in front of us, but we're just going to worry about us.
Well, I will say this, Coach. It has been a remarkable season for you guys. Obviously, getting it done. The offense has been fantastic. You got a chance potentially to win 40 games this year. And to come away and win the conference tournament the way you did is pretty awesome. Best of luck to you guys in Baton Rouge. I don't know if I'm allowed to cheer for ex-Southland Conference members. I have no idea how that works, but I'm pulling for you guys. I certainly hope y'all do well and show out there in Baton Rouge.
Well, I appreciate it. We're not in the Southland anymore, so jump on. Come on.
Okay. Hey, there you go. That's all I need. Jump right on that bandwagon. Don't have to tell me twice. Coach, congrats on the season and best of luck.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Appreciate it. Jay Sirianni, head coach of the Sam Houston Bearkats.